Kathy, I appreciate the chance we have to get together. I don't know if there's something or not that we have that will help you, but I'm going to go through the areas that we work in. Areas such as increasing your cash flow, decreasing your debt, and reducing your taxes. We actually specialize in life insurance and annuities, and we use these products to help shave years off your retirement date. After that, if there's still an interest on your part, I'm going to gather some information, and so when we get back together again later, we can go over some specifics. But for today, it doesn't cost you a dime. I just want you to sit back and relax, okay?
Mm-hmm.
First, let me tell you a little bit about the Federal Financial Group. FFG is a national company that represents several insurance and other financial institutions that have billions of dollars of assets. Some of these companies we work with have been in business for over 100 years. And what we do is we teach people about money, about how it works and how we can make it work better for them. Specifically, our goal is to help people become financially independent. And what I mean by that is the interest that you earn on the money that you put away gets to the point where it can actually replace what you make at your job or at your business. At that point, you don't have to work if you don't want to. You can if you still like to, but you don't have to. You have a choice. And I guess that's what we refer to as financial independence. Now, is that something that would interest you, you'd want to do?
Absolutely.
Oh, great. Well, we're going to get to that in just a minute. First off, what I want to do is touch on some of the issues and challenges that face us, and then talk about some of the solutions. For instance, in the last 10 years, our incomes have risen, but so has inflation. And for many Americans, there's no way that their income has kept up with the cost or expenses of housing, groceries, gas, and that sort of thing. So what happens is these folks find themselves getting into debt. Lack of security sets in, poor saving habits ensue, and next thing you know, they find themselves in trouble. So what I'm trying to say here is, well, for instance, out of 100 people who are actually turning 65 years old today, do you know how many are going to be financially secure with only $35,000 a year or more?
I don't know. I'd hope at least maybe half.
Well, actually, the number's only 4. Only 4 out of 100, which is really sad in this great country of ours. But you have to wonder, what about those other 96? What do they do? I guess they get stuck. They rely on family, they rely on charity, but for the vast majority of them, they're stuck still working in a job. And if you go to any Walmart today, you can just look around and see the senior citizens that are working not because they want to, but because they have to. Now, some of the solutions we have here are, well, I guess what we do is we work in some key areas involving 7 steps to help people to become financially independent. And we weave these 7 steps together to help people to increase their cash flow, to eliminate their debt if we can, to reduce their taxes, and to retire as soon as possible. Our goal here is to help them develop financial independence as soon as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip through these 7 steps, real quick. Stop me if you have any questions, or just make a mental note of some of the areas that might be a top priority to you or a concern, and we'll come back and we'll touch on that later. The first step is what we refer to as inspect what to expect. And basically here, in order for you to save money for the future, you need to know where your money is going today. Part of understanding money and understanding how it works is understanding where it's actually going. What we're going to do is we're going to introduce you to a tool that's going to help you track your earnings and your expenses so you can technically inspect what you expect. Our goal here is for you to our goal here is for you to find money you didn't know you have so you can apply it towards reducing the debt you have, maybe putting it towards some sort of a future goal, or, like I said from before, shaving some years off of that retirement, which is always a good thing for most people. The step 2 is increasing cash flow. Kathy, what would you say is a definition of cash flow?
I guess it would be what I would consider the money that I have left after I pay my bills from my check.
That's a pretty good guess is what it would be.
Mhm.
For this though, what I want you to consider cash flow is the amount of money that's left over at the end of the month after all your earnings have come in and all your expenses have gone out, whatever's left over. Now, we work with firms that specialize in improving your cash flow by reducing the cost of managing your debt. One place where we often find money is, for example, is your income tax. At the end of the year, do you get a refund, or do you end up paying money into the state or the federal government?
It's usually a refund. We had a couple years where with retirement and different things that happened, we owed money, but we try to keep it even if we can.
Oh, that's a pretty good plan, pretty good way to do it. Just to give you an idea what some of the things we do, we actually were talking to a fellow last week, and he told us that he gets between $2,500 and $3,000 a year. And my partner I was with looked at him and just said, so basically what you're telling me is you're letting the government take your money so they can hang on to it for 14 or 16 months out of the year, so they can pay it back to you at 0% interest. He looked a little bit disturbed, I guess, in a way, and he goes, that just doesn't make sense, and really it doesn't. There's ways that you can take that money as it's being earned so you can apply it to some form of investment, so you can actually draw an income off of it or interest off of it instead of the government, because that's basically what the government is doing. Now, step 3 we like to talk about is the debt eliminator. Well, what we're doing here is we're eliminating people's debt, or trying to, and we have 2 plans here. Plan A is called the debt eliminator, and it's a computer program that helps you pay off your debt systematically, and actually it improves or expedites the amount of debt that you can pay off. Here's a typical family here who has a 30-year mortgage. This is an actual client from a few years back. He had a $144,000 mortgage, 30 years. He had $39,000 in auto loans. He had $10,000 in credit card debt and $1,200 in some store debt. If he would have just paid his regular payments like he would have been debt free, but it would have taken 26.8 years. By using this computer program, we were able to show him how to pay off his debt, including his mortgage, in 13.1 years. And then after that, continue to pay himself that money, as if he's making his debt payment. So at the end of 26.8 years, when he would have been out of debt normally here without using the plan, he now would have had $500,000 that would have been saved up towards his retirement. Now, plan B we have here is refinancing your mortgage. For a lot of people, they don't like to do this. I don't know, do you have a mortgage?
Yes, we do.
How much do you owe on your home?
I think it's about 100 and maybe 40,000.
And how much is your home worth?
It's a little over 200.
Okay, so you have some equity there in case you never ever needed it. What's the current interest rate? Do you know?
No idea.
Okay. How about your FICO score? Do you know what your credit score is?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, this is just for illustration purposes anyway. We're just demonstrating this to you. This is a typical family. They have 2 mortgages, a first and a second. They owe money on cars like everybody else. Their total debt comes to about $206,000. What they were wanting to do is free up some cash so they can apply it towards an emergency fund and pay off debt and expedite it a little bit quicker. So they ended up refinancing it at a 5.5% interest rate, which actually you could probably get better rates now anyway. But they were able to save about $745 a month, or $8,900 annually, so they could apply it towards different things so they can get out of debt a little bit quicker. But their big predicament was, do I take a 15-year mortgage and pay off the home real quick, then take that extra money and apply it towards my retirement plan, or do I take a 30-year mortgage, which the payment would be a lot less, and I'd have a little extra money left over. So let's just look at the time value of money and how this works. If they would have paid it off in 15 years, the 15-year mortgage was $1,716 a month. In 15 years, it would have been paid off, and then they would apply that towards some sort of a retirement plan. And for this, it's just an illustration. We're just showing you getting 8% interest. It could be more, it could be less. This is just as a demonstration. But Anyway, it showed them at the end of the 30-year period total of having $593,801. That's pretty good. But now let's look at the 30-year plan. They would have been paying less over the course of the 30 years, but taking that extra money and applying it into a plan at 8%. Because they would have been starting 15 years early, and because of compounding of interest, this really accelerated it quite a bit. So instead of having the 593, they ended up with 780,948. Actually, more than, well, it was $187,000 more. So that just gives you an idea of time and how it can really affect what your money does. Now, step 4 is developing an emergency plan. This is a biggie also, and I find that most people don't have one of these emergency plans. And so what happens is when an emergency comes up, what happens is out comes the plastic. Okay, so that $1,800 transmission now costs $3,000 or $4,000 in 3 or 4 years. This really can hurt people. Now, there are 4 factors that make up a good emergency fund. Number 1, it has to be in a safe place, somewhere where you know it's safe, you don't have to worry about it. 2, it has to be liquid, which means what I mean by that is you have to be able to get to it if you need it. Number 3, it has to be in a place that gets a better rate than a checking account that is probably less than 1%. And 4, it has to be separate from your other accounts. And it has to be a place where you systematically put money, okay? And if you think about it this way, if you try to save money in a checking account, you know what happens. If the money is there, it's going to be spent. And I'm sure you've heard the saying, out of sight, out of mind. Well, that's what we want you to do. We want you to have a separate account, maybe like a money market account, where you can systematically take money and draft it out of your checking account and have it go right into your money market account. And it'll build up over the course of months or years. And then when that $1,800 bill comes up for your transmission, instead of putting it on plastic, you can go right there, pull that money out, pay off the bill, and you don't have to worry about it. It keeps those credit card balances at 0. Plus, you don't have to be tempted to tap into your retirement fund and pay that extra 10% penalty, which that's what you don't want to do. Step 5, it utilizes life insurance to protect your future and basically the breadwinner of the family, because the last thing you want to do is have the breadwinner pass away, because then who's going to pay for, who's going to make the house payments, who's going to pay for the utilities, who's going to pay for the groceries. It's bad enough that a family of, let's say, 4 or 5, they lose their father or their mother for that matter, but the income they bring into the home is very important. And to continue their lifestyle, everybody needs to have life insurance. What we do that's a little bit different is we actually do a financial needs analysis to determine how much life insurance you really need, and then we get it at the best possible price to hopefully cover you as far as life insurance is concerned, but also increase your cash flow so you have a little bit of extra money. Now, step 6, this is the biggest one, and if you listen to me, it could change the quality of your life. And this is the one that most people like the best. Step 6 has to do with building a long-term savings or a long-term income stream. But there's two factors at play here. Two financial battles that you have to win the money game. Because if you don't incorporate these, and I'll be strong with you, the chances of you becoming financially independent probably won't happen. And if it does, it's way out there. Now, these 2 battles are the inflation battle, which we're going to touch on in just a minute, and the tax battle. Because it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. And if you're not careful, these taxes can really hurt you. Now let's talk about inflation for just a minute, the inflation battle. Have you ever heard of the rule of 72?
No.
Well, it's pretty interesting, and let me explain it to you. If whatever interest rate you're getting, let's say you're getting 4%. If you divide 4% into the number 72, it will tell you how many years it'll take for your money to double. So 4 into 72, I know the math already, it's 18. So every 18 years, your money is going to double at 4%. So let's say you have $100 in a bank account, getting 4%. So in 18 years, it doubles to 200. Now, in 18 more years, what does it do?
Doubles.
To what?
200 more.
So 400, right? 400. So in 36 years, you now have $400. Well, the problem is that $400 going to buy what $100 bought 36 years before? You know, inflation has averaged around 3% a year since 1926 through 2007. See, that's inflation. So where people are saving money, but where are they saving? I mean, they're saving in banks, they're saving in credit unions, some put money in CDs. Chances are they're not even getting close to that 4% that we were talking about. And you can see what's happening here. Money is growing, but inflation is growing much faster. And these people are losing purchasing power, which it may put them in a situation where they'll never be able to retire, which is a big, big problem. The solution here is to find a better interest rate for these people. Say you could get, let's say 12 or 6 to 12% instead of the 4%. Let's say that, well, let's look at it this way. Let's say you're 29 years old and you have $10,000 in the bank, at 4%. Well, we know in 36 years that's going to be worth what, $40,000. Well, so you have $40,000 to your name. You're 65 years old. The kids have grown up and hopefully they're out of the house. The house is paid off. Now you want to retire, but all you have is $40,000 to your name. How long do you think that's going to last?
$40,000, not very long at all.
Yeah, I mean, the way we spend money, probably not long at all. I mean, you're looking at a year, maybe a little bit longer, if you're very, very frugal. But when the money's gone, guess what? You're going to end up being a greeter at Walmart. And that's a big problem. But the biggest problem is you've run out of time now. You're 65 years old. So what are you're gonna do here? I guess the $1 million question is, if you can go back in time and you could have got a better interest rate like that 12%, well, I'm not saying 12, but let's say between 6 and 12%, would you be better financially secure than you are at 4%? Of course. Well, let's take a look at this right here. This is a pretty good little thing. Now, we talked about the guy who got 4% interest. We can see he's right here at 65. He's got $40,000. But let's say if we could have got 6%. Well, at 6%, his money would have doubled every 12 years. He would have had 80,000. At 9%, I'm sorry, at 8%, it would double every 9 years, and he would have had 160,000. If he would have got 12%, it would double every 6 years. He would have got $164,000. I mean, the difference between this guy and this guy is $600,000. No more time, no more money, same payments, same everything. Only this guy here had the better interest rate. So you can see, what the problem is here. Now, Kathy, this is a very important principle for you to learn, right?
Yes,
you can see how it really, how important it is. Now, it's not really about having $10,000 in the bank. It's more about being able to put away money on a monthly basis, at a good interest rate that it's going to add up. Now, if you will save for you, at a good interest rate, there might be a time when the money, your money is that you're earning will start out earning you. That's when everything becomes really, awesome. That's when you become financially independent. But the $1 million question is, where can I find, a good rate of return, but yet have a protection of principal where, you're actually guaranteed not to lose money. There are actually two different strategies, or I'm sorry, there's three different strategies that most people use here. And I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of each one of these, and then you can tell me which one makes best sense to you, okay? First is what they call the fixed rate strategy. This is a guaranteed fixed rate of return. The problem with that is it's usually around 2 or 3% if you're lucky. I mean, a lot of times these fixed annuities and things are even less than that. There's a big risk here with inflation. We talked about inflation. If inflation is 3 or 4% and you're getting 1 or 2%, you're actually losing buying power. You know, this is the big risk with the fixed rate. The second approach is the other end of the spectrum. It has to do with the stock market or mutual funds. There is a high degree of potential growth, but there's also the potential loss of your principal. This can be very risky, and people have lost a lot of money doing that. The third is what they call the indexed approach. This is where your principal is protected. You can't lose it. All interest earned is protected. You can't lose it, and the gain is connected to the growth of the S&P 500 index, which for the past 25 years has averaged right around 10% per year. Now, Kathy, of those three strategies, which do you think would make most sense to you?
I'm thinking probably the last one.
The index strategy? You know, that is a very, very popular strategy. And, you know, let me go into that just a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the S&P 500 index. The S&P 500 index is actually a group of 500 stocks. 500 companies that are the most widely held companies in the United States. It consists of about 100 different industries, and by that I mean like technology, like pharmaceuticals, like utilities, and things like that. It basically makes up about 70% of the total equities market in the United States, which is basically about 70% of our economy. And the funny thing is, or the good thing is, that S&P 500 index has averaged about 10% per year for the past 25 years. Now, I'm sure if you can go back 25 years, wouldn't it be nice if you could actually invest some money in that, in getting that? Now, of course, it's gone up and down, but that's the average that it's had. Now, when we get back together, if you've determined that the index strategy is something you want to look at, I'll go into it a little bit more detail, and we can go over some of the floors and the caps, some of the terms and the conditions, and the costs. But for now, what I want to give you is an overview of the index strategy and how the interest crediting works. Okay. And the interest is all linked to the S&P 500 index. So if the S&P up to a cap, there's a cap of 13%. So let's say that this year the stock market or the index goes up by 8%. You'll get 8%. But it also protects you from any downside losses. If it drops 20%, you're guaranteed a floor, which means whether it's 2%, 1%, depending on the company you decide to go with. So you can't lose money. Now, there is one issue with it is the downside of it is if the stock market goes up 20%, you're locked in at 13%. But for a lot of people, not losing money is worth more than gambling on that high amount. And let me just show you real quick what I'm talking about. Let's just say you had $200,000 and you're going to invest $100,000 in an index fund, and you're going to invest $100,000 directly into the stock market. So the first year, you have 100K and 100,000 here. The first year they both go up 10%. So what do you have? You have $110,000 in each, correct? Oops, there, 110. Now the next year it goes up again 10%. So now you have 121 in both. It's like, wow, that's pretty good. 21, I'm writing upside down, having some issues here. Okay, now the next year what happens is it drops by 20%. It's happened before, and it'll happen again. So your stock, the investment that's directly in the stock market, it's now worth $9,600, or $96,000, I'm sorry. Your index up here stock, we'll just say it has a floor of 0. You still have 121. So next year, it goes up 10% again. Well, the investment you have in the stock market directly, now you have $105.
Mm-hmm.
$105,000,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And in your index fund, it goes up by 10%. You now have 133
Mm-hmm.
and some change.
Uh-huh.
So the index strategy, although it took away that loss here, you are actually up $27,500.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can see why this is a very popular strategy these days.
Yeah.
Correct?
Definitely.
Now, John, we're just talking here about the rate of return, getting a rate of return, but you cannot forget about taxes, because taxes will kill you also. So what we want to do is we want to win both the rate of return and the tax battle. Okay? So I'm gonna tell you a little story here about a guy who 30 years ago he wanted to save $1 million. So he goes into a bank and he asks the banker. He says, "Mr. Banker, how much do I have to put away every month for me to have $1 million when I turn 60?" Well, the banker, he sat down, grabbed his little computer, figured out he was getting 5% on CD rates, although they're not getting that now. But he sits down and he comes back with a number. He says, "Hey, buddy, you can. It's going to take $1,639.29 a month for 30 years at 5% for you to have $1 million in the bank." Well, the guy, he just threw his hands up and said, "Forget that. I can't save that money. That's 30 years ago." So he walks out the door. He's done. He never saved a dime. He never did anything. And I think he's one of those greeters at Walmart. I hate busting on Walmart all the time, but we do. So let's say we had the opportunity to talk to this guy prior to this, and let's see what would happen if we could have got him, instead of 5%, let's see if we could have got him a better rate of return at 10%. At 10%, he would have to come up with $900 a month. Well, that's a lot of money, and most people can't afford that. But I mean, some people could. But just as this example shows, it saved him, $700 a month. Okay. Now let's compound that with tax deferred growth, which means your money is going to grow without being taxed. Now, with that at 10%, he could have $1 million. It would be $438 a month.
Wow.
Most people can probably do that, and maybe even you could do that. And, hey, you're probably blowing that every month anyway. Most of us do, are blowing it on whatever lattes or whatever, on all other silly stuff. But, anyways. I just wanted to use this as an example of what the power of combining a good rate of return with tax deferred growth, what it can do for people. It could change your life. This is really neat, isn't it? Good. Now, let me ask you something, Kathy. If you could have that and you could be financially independent today and you could do whatever you want, you had enough money in your nest egg that you could live off the interest. What would you and your husband like to do right now? What would you be doing?
More vacations.
Would you like to travel?
Yeah, when I can, yes.
Well, that's great. That's what being financially independent is all about. It's about doing what you want, when you want, how you want. I mean, you have options at that point. The fact is, the other day, we were going through the implementation phase of our process here. That's the second visit. And we were sitting down with a husband and wife, and we were going through everything. We were showing them the plan that we were presenting them. And the wife got so excited that she jumped up and she started saying that she wanted to go down, she wanted to knock on everybody's door up and down the street and ask them, when are they going to become financially independent? And she said, she knows, but she goes, I'll bet you none of them know. Well, at that point, both the husband and wife sort of became one. They were so excited about this. They knew when it was going to happen, where it was going to happen, and they had a clear view picture. That's what makes step 6, so neat, because you're going to know when and how it's going to happen. So let's now jump real quick to step 6. I told you I was going to rip through these real quick. That one took a little bit longer. But step 7 has to do with estate planning. And this has to do basically with the transfer of money from one generation to another without Uncle Sam picking your pocket again once you're gone. We do this by using both wills and trusts to avoid probate. Let me ask you, do you have a will in place?
We do.
You do, great. If you don't have a will or trust, the courts, they're the ones that come in and actually decide what happens, and they're happy to do it, and
Yeah.
they charge you, quite a bit.
Mhm.
Let me ask you, do you happen to have a living will?
I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think so? Oh, if you don't think so, you probably don't. Well, do you remember hearing about Terry Schiavo?
Yes.
It was a sad case.
Yeah.
She didn't have a living will,
Mhm.
and it tore the family apart. The courts were trying to decide. The family was trying to decide. If that woman would have thought ahead and had a living will, it would have saved everybody. Her and her family a terrible, terrible grief. Let me ask you: Does it bother you, or do you know how or what's going to happen as far as your financial decisions, your any legal decisions, how that's going to happen if you can't make decisions anymore, if something happens to you? Is that something that bothers you, that we should take care of?
I mean, I would just imagine that my husband would take care of those things, but we don't have anything really in writing or anything, I guess.
Okay.
But if both of us unfortunately went at the same time, I don't think we have anything really in place.
Are you concerned about how your assets might be dispersed if, let's say, your husband and you passed away at the same time?
I mean, I guess so, because I would want it to be fair. I would want things to happen the way I would want to, and I wouldn't want my children to have to make those decisions.
Okay. Well, are you working with an estate attorney, or have you ever talked to one before?
No.
Is that something that might interest you doing
Yeah.
in the future?
Yes.
Okay, we can look into that,
Okay.
later on down the road.
Okay.
All right. Well, those are the 7 steps.
Okay.
Okay? They're kind of neat, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Now, let me ask you one very important question. If you were to pick 2, you can only pick 2 of those 7 steps that you would feel are the highest priority in your life right now. And let me go over them real quick. It would be increasing your cash flow, eliminating debt, developing an emergency fund, building a long-term financial independence, or estate planning. Now, of all those, which 2 would you consider the most important?
Well, I have to say that they all sound very important. I know that recently I have been more worried about the emergency fund thing, so I would say eliminating debt and the emergency fund, but also estate planning. So those 3 really would be important.
I can only get
to me.
2.
I only get 2. Let's go eliminating debt and
Okay.
estate planning, I guess.
Debt and estate planning.
Okay.
Those are 2 good choices.
Uh-huh.
I'll just jot those down real quick. Now, what we're going to do next, or let me tell you what we do next. We do this thing that's called a financial needs analysis, and what that does is it makes sure that the products that we offer you are suitable to you. And what we do is I'm going to ask you some questions, some financial questions, and we're going to get a snapshot of where you are right now, and we're going to find out where you want to be in the future. Then I'll take that information back. We have some computer software. We enter all this information into it, and it's going to help me come up with a plan that is going to get me from where you are today and get you to where you want to be in the future, which is financial independence. Pretty awesome, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, usually it's at this point people want to know, how do I get paid? So first off, I have to tell you that there's no cost for what we're doing here today.
Okay.
That doesn't cost you a dime, but I do get paid 2 ways. First, if you decide to do business with me, I'm going to be going to maybe 1 or 2 companies to come up with the products that are going to help your plan come to fruition. And then those companies, whichever company we use, they pay me a commission.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Second, I get paid a second way. If you think that what we did was of value to you, and all I would do is ask that you introduce me to 3 or 4 people that you know who could also benefit from the work that we did. Does that sound fair enough?
Sounds fair enough, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, let's get started. It's very important that you answer these questions as accurately as possible, because we're talking about your financial future here.
Okay.
Believe me, there's nothing I'd rather have more than a file with your name on it in my office, but confidentiality is very important to me. Anything that we discuss here is between you, me, and some of the members of the Federal Financial Group who are going to help me come up with a plan that best suits your individual needs. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So I do want to let you know that if you do decide not to do business with me, and I highly doubt you're going to do that once we show you our proposal, any information you give me, it will be shredded or destroyed, okay? It's
Okay.
not going to go anywhere, okay?
Okay.
It's very important to me that that happens.
Okay.
Okay, so, well, let's get started.
Okay.
At this point, I would do the financial needs analysis. Okay, now, the financial needs analysis is over. Kathy, this is going to be awesome. We were able to come up with $300 to work with to help you make your dreams come true. Man, when we get back together, you're going to have a crystal clear picture of when and where you're going to become totally financially independent. Fulfilling your dreams, goals, you're going to love it, okay? But you're going to need to have to listen to me right now, because we're going to have to spend some time and get kind of serious. I know you're serious about this, so I'm going to be serious about this.
Okay.
But all right, but this is really going to be awesome. So actually, Kathy, this is going to change the quality of your life, okay? But now this is very important that we build upon what we've been talking about today. So we need to get together over the next day or two to go over what we discussed. If we wait, I might have to go through everything again. You see how long it took.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to do that, okay? So with that in mind, we need to get together as soon as possible. Now, we're talking about your financial life here, so that's what we got to move in as soon as possible.
Okay.
I told you about the time value of money. We want to get rolling as soon as
Right.
we can. Now, tomorrow I have an opening at 3, or I have an opening on Wednesday at 4. Would either one of those work out for you?
I think Wednesday would be good for me.
Okay, all right, I'll jot down here Wednesday. All right, great. Now, before I leave, let me ask you a couple of very important questions, okay? If, when I come back, I can show you a plan that meets your every need and that you're very comfortable with, is there any reason why we couldn't do business together?
No, not at all.
Great. Second, after we do business together, is there any reason you could introduce me to 3 or 4 people you know who could benefit from the type of work that we just did?
No, I can't see why not. I'd be happy to help someone else.
Great, Kathy. All right. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.